Regions Bank.
And we're off and running on a Monday. We're in a new month, by the way. It's December. How did we get to December? Seems like it was August, just 3 months ago. Anyway, the Iron Bowl has come and gone, and living up to expectations doesn't really do it justice. It may have been the greatest Iron Bowl in history, and that's saying quite a lot. Thank you. Gus Malzahn's trick play outsmarts the GOAT and wins the Iron Bowl. Somehow you were in a cave over the weekend? Check it out.
I gotta push through the pain before I get back up again. 'Cause the battle's won, but the war goes on. But the war goes on.
Intercepted down the sideline. Touchdown, Auburn!
The war goes on.
Allen puts Bama back in the lead. He's into the end zone. Shivers just ran through a man.
The war goes on.
Gets the upright. This was over. This was over.
And listen, we have guests. We have plenty of analysis, but one thing that has made this show whatever it is to you are the callers. And we want to spend plenty of time on that subject today. And we'll start right now. We go to Rob, who is in Georgia, and you are first up. Good afternoon. Rob, you there? I don't know if that's a good harbinger of things to come or not. When the first call on the day goes haywire, Tony is now the first caller of the day, even though he's the second name I called out. Tony, you're on the air.
Hey, Mr. Finebaum, how you doing today, sir?
We're doing great, thank you.
Thank you for taking my call. First and foremost, excuse me, condolences to all of the Auburn University family, and especially to the Sullivans. I remember seeing Pat and Terry Beasley. I'm sure you remember the name.
Of course.
Back in the 70s, and gave my Crimson Tide plenty of fits. So blessings to the Sullivan family.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So Paul, plenty of talk going around. Going to just get right to it. I'm going to ask you one simple question. And myself, good friend of mine down in Dothan, Alabama, think part of the problem in Tuscaloosa has to be specifically on defense. Everybody knows that. Forget the decimation of the injuries and all that. But my question is this, Paul. Is Pete Golden the man?
No, listen, I can't answer that question. All I can answer is what I hear. And if you had to make one prediction about Nick Saban, when things don't go well, whether it's his fault or someone else's, and I know he will make a change.
Yeah. Well, here's my thesis on this whole subject. Remember back last year when we had a healthy Dylan Moses and a very good Mac Wilson? The latter half of 2018, Golden was calling most of those plays.
Well, listen, for those who don't remember, Golden had to take over because Tosh LaPoy was pretty much deep six midway through the season. I thought he did a good job. But I don't want to spend the whole day talking about what Alabama didn't have and all the injuries. Every team in college football had serious injuries. Alabama had its share, as we all know about. It just seems like when Alabama has them, the Tide is unique. Nobody else is unique but Alabama. Anyway, let's keep moving. We'll try Rob again. Rob, second time go around. You're on.
Excuse my tardiness, Paul. I had a employee call me. Excuse me. I wanted to touch on two topics with you. First one being I called you a few weeks ago asking how in the world was Alabama ever going to make the playoffs. You said you didn't see it, and here we are. Your season's over. Now, with that being said, moving to Gus, had you talked to Auburn fans Friday, Saturday morning, I'd say 60-40 wanted him to be fired. Well, now, because he's magically won this game, the feelings are changing, it seems. But without a missed kick and 2 pick sixes, you lost the game, Gus.
Hey, Rob, let me stop you for a second, okay? First of all, I think your numbers are a little low. I stayed in Auburn on Friday night, and at the hotel I was at, which was the main hotel in Auburn, I didn't run into any Auburn fat cats. I'm not talking about idle fans. I'm talking about the people that control the influence, who wanted him to stay. Gus Malzahn just keeps winning in spite of his lack of support from the people, not the average fans. I think the Auburn fans have supported Malzahn. I'm talking about the power brokers. They have not supported Malzahn.
Yeah. Now, if you do keep him, what do you think the chances are of getting Chad Morris as your OC next season?
Well, listen, I can't imagine Gus Malzahn wanting to leave now. I mean, he's just done the unthinkable. I don't have any idea where Chad Morris is going to end up. Now, the question is, does Gus Malzahn really want Chad Morris in there to call the plays when it's his offense? I don't know about that one, but I mean, I think it's a blank slate right now, but I don't think anyone's going to tell Gus Malzahn what he needs to do after beating Nick Saban 2 out of the last 3 years. Ryan is in Starkville, Mississippi. Ryan.
Paul, thanks for my call, man. What do you think about Morit's comments about the fan base on Friday morning?
You know, listen, I think you should win or lose with the same modicum of class. I've never been a big believer in calling out the people that support you and pay your bill. That would be like me going crazy here today because some callers were not there when I went to them and blame you for what somebody else didn't do. I wasn't crazy about it, but again, nobody in Starkville really cares what I think.
Right, and that the guy not had the penalty in his zone for Ole Miss to win the game, the story might have been a lot.
Well, listen, Matt Luke got fired because of what happened at the end of that game. I don't have any doubt about that. He was a popular guy. Everyone loved him. 4-8, 5-7, and then one of his players does something stupid, and he supports his player as opposed to calling him out. And the next thing you know, he's unemployed.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Paul. Look forward to a good show.
Thank you very much. Great to hear from you. Vinny. Always trust a man named Vinny on a Monday afternoon. Vinny, what's up?
Paul, Vinny Bowles here from Huntsville, Alabama. How are you,
Oh, my
sir?
goodness. General, how are you doing?
Paul, I'm doing very well. Things are well, and how are things with you?
Vinny, they're doing great. And for those who don't know, this is a very distinguished retired general on the phone here. One with whom I've had the honor of making acquaintance in Huntsville, and it is always great to talk to you.
Paul, I was interested. We've talked about leadership several times and everything else, and I'd be interested. There's been a lot of talk about injuries for Alabama and Auburn and everything else, and I wonder with the recent Alabama experience, do you think it might be time for Coach Saban to look at arresting the revolving door he seems to have on analysts and assistant coaches and try to get some stability in there, and perhaps that might be an asset for him?
You know, General, I think that's a really interesting idea. Just because you understand more about leadership than I ever have, because you commanded a large number of forces and troops, and to me, sometimes you can have too many toys. I know you understand what I'm talking about there. And I think the biggest issue at Alabama has been the personnel on the staff, not on the field.
Well, there has been a lot of revolving, and especially not just revolving, but they come for a year, leave. I mean, Sarkisian, I think, has been there 2 years, was an analyst, then an assistant. Daboll left very, very quickly as well. And that churn, can, in the mind of players, they start wondering where's the consistency? What do we
you know what's interesting? I talked to someone recently, I'm not going to identify where, or it was someone in the high school world, and there was a player at this individual school, and the revolving door of people that came to recruit one player was 3 or 4 different people, where other coaches are coming in with one man assigned to him and then the head coach, and that shows the breakdown, and I don't think you can survive for long with the kind of discontinuity that Saban has. And I mean, you have to, and I want you to explain this better than I can. You have to be able to rely on the people that support you.
Well, you have to rely on the people who support you, and as importantly, that requires that the people that are working with you, you and them have to have a mind meld about how things operate. They have to be inside your head and know what the bounds are, know what's acceptable, not acceptable, and know what your intent is. And I think if that churn's going on, it takes a while to build that.
Well, no doubt. Listen, let's reconnect soon and get you on here to expound on some of these subjects.
Listen, I'll look forward to it. And right now, the only thing for an Army successful season is you better beat Navy, because we darn sure couldn't beat Hawaii.
Spoken like a true general. Thank you, General. Always great to talk to you.
Paul, all the best.
You bet. I had the opportunity. General Bowles has written. He's a great lecturer up in Huntsville, and just an incredibly respected and decorated Army general. And yeah, you better beat Navy. That's the most important thing. We'll take a break. More to come. Off to a good start here. Postseason begins on next Monday. Guys, what about it?
It's a special edition.
Let's just start off with this lemon here. All right, a little low-hanging fruit. Bama will never make it to the top again under Saban.
Oh, my
low-hanging fruit or truth?
I think that's let me think about it for a second. Low-hanging fruit.
Okay, low-hanging fruit.
That's low. That's low. That's an overreaction. Come on. I'm going to take the sour grapes, and you may notice a theme as we go through some of these. Harbaugh will never beat Ohio State. Low-hanging fruit.
I would bet my life on that being true. He will be, when he retires, he'll be 0-97 against Ohio State.
He's Michigan's John Cooper.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take this apple here and see what this one has. There's a bunch of nevers in here, and FSU will never be among the nation's elite.
I think that's low-hanging fruit. I think they could get the right coach like Brian Kelly, and they'll be back.
Got him.
All right.
Our latest never, as I sample this orange here. The Big 12 will never win the CFP in its current format.
That's 100% true. I mean, they will get to the playoffs every year and lose in the first round every year.
Yeah, how much would Baylor lose by to any of the three schools they're definitely in?
Wow, that's
40.
Yeah.
I mean, almost anyone in that 4 spot would be in that position.
All right, I'll take the banana. Normally leave Nature's Candy Bar for you, but took it here. Dabo will never stop complaining.
That's
low-hanging fruit or truth.
I mean, Dabo is somebody just needs to give Dabo a pacifier and send him to timeout until the end of the college football season. I'm really getting sick of his whining.
All right.
Yeah, they don't want us to finish this segment. But we're going to anyway. The Egg Bowl will never have a normal ending.
No, the Egg Bowl is the greatest reality show in college football. Welcome back. Let's get back to the calls at 855-242-7285. Doug is in South Carolina, where they had a little football game on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we had a little one. Talking about a great football game. Wasn't that Iron Bowl tremendous?
It was.
Yeah, you know, the only thing that got me about the thing is even Danielson was talking about it. It takes an average of 3 seconds to kick a field goal, and that's the longest 3 1-second average.
Yeah, but the one thing I remember, I heard that, but let's go back to 2013 for a second, okay?
All right.
Does anyone remember that time ran out and then Nick Saban wanted 1 second put back on the clock? Remember?
Yeah, I remember that. And
how is that 1 second different than the 1 second on Saturday?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I know.
I didn't hear Saban saying, "Let's put 1 second back," even though there's no way to get a playoff in 1 second. Same guy, opposite side of the field.
That's true. That's true. I didn't think of it like that.
Well, you know what? I didn't either. My wife came up with that one.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to her. She asked me Sunday when I got back in town. She said was talking about. I said, well, they really shouldn't have had that. They shouldn't have gotten the field goal off because Saban said. And she goes, well, what did Saban say 6 years ago? Saban says.
That's true.
Anyway, not to be a lawyer here.
Well, talking about the game Saturday, I'm not going to say nothing about what happened in Columbia, except I guess Cat Daddy's going to have to spread around a lot of Pall Mall moonshine for them to kill their sorrows. But one thing I will say.
Let's give South Carolina some credit, okay? They scored.
Yeah, they did score. Let me tell you this, though. Muschamp was on his post-game show, and he made the understatement of the year. He said he had a lot of work to do.
Really?
That's what he said. He said
well, Muschamp said it. And by the way, I want to thank my administration for so screwing up all the statements about my future that I'm able to slip in here for at least another year until the buyout goes down.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, now you think about this. If ESPN told you they'd give you an $18.2 million buyout, you'd probably say, good, y'all can have my show, and I'll watch y'all from TV next year.
They've tried to run me off for a lot less, I can assure you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, if you're Will Muschamp, you just don't care anymore. Why would you care?
You don't have to.
No,
$18.2 million. You can do pretty much what you want.
Yeah, you're gonna get your annual beating by Clemson. You win 4 games, and your president and AD says you're doing good.
Yeah.
It's like me coming in here every day and just kick my feet up and hey, let's open a 6-pack and watch Andy Griffith on one of the 6 TVs we have here, or 8.
Yeah, your buyout would come real quick, wouldn't it?
My buyout's coming. I've heard the rumor mill. Greg is up next in Athens. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call. I heard your conversation with General Bowles, and I actually got to meet him in Athens a couple of years ago. He spoke in an event. And
he is a great man.
He's a great speaker and well-versed. And, you know, when you guys were doing the coaches' meetings in the spring or early summer, you got to have him and Kit Smithsmeyer down there and talk about
You're right.
leadership and how it relates to life and sport. And, back before the season started, you asked me on the show what I thought would be Alabama's toughest game, and I told you Auburn. And if you'd have told me Friday that Bama would have scored 45 points, then I would think that would equate to a win. And, of course, that didn't happen. So they're going to have to reevaluate. And I just don't think since Jeremy Pruitt's been gone, Paul, that the defense has looked anywhere near what it has been the previous 10 years that he's been there.
No, you're right. And listen, I mean, whether Nick Saban likes it or not, whether Alabama fans like it or not, there's going to be a lot of evaluation of what went wrong, and there should be, especially, Greg, when Saban, after the season ended last year, did the "we're going to get the Alabama factor back." I mean, what's his cliche going to be this year?
Well, it obviously didn't happen, and when you say you're going to do something and it doesn't happen, then you have to start with yourself first.
And Greg, this is the first time it has not happened. At the end of 13, he swore things would be different, and they were. Alabama got back to the playoffs, and really had a good chance against Ohio State and threw the game away. But I don't know what he says now because he's out recruiting right now, and what he has to do first is try to tone down the negativity, which is everywhere. Listen. Sunday morning, I was up in Connecticut after I left Auburn, and I do Sports Center there every Sunday morning, and usually the biggest college game of the day gets about 3 minutes. Greg, this game got 15 straight minutes on the most influential sports network in the world and by the way, and it still wasn't enough time to get everything in.
No, it's going to be something they're going to have to deal with moving forward, and he still has a bowl game somewhere that he needs to do well in.
Good luck. And right now I've heard it's probably the Cotton Bowl or the Citrus Bowl. Good luck getting his players fired up to play in that one.
Well, he's got to do. I don't know what he has to do other than he's got to equate some kind of change now. Because it's going to affect his recruiting if he doesn't get this wrapped around his finger.
He's in a tough spot, but listen, he's the greatest coach of all time for a reason. He failed, and listen, I know Alabama fans don't want to hear that he failed. I heard one Alabama fan say today, "Well, if Auburn thinks it's a big deal that they beat our backup quarterback, then good luck to them." I'm thinking, really? That backup quarterback was at Alabama when their starting quarterback was in the 10th grade. That's not going to get you ahead. But what's going to get us ahead is to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll talk. Okay, time to get on the Gus bus. Enough of this criticism. He's had 3 wins against Saban. Top 10, 7 years. He's done okay. And he's kept the Waffle House in business.
I mean, Paul, you look at that resume, and you'd really be hard-pressed to believe that this is someone who is under fire for his job seemingly every single season. I mean, that's a pretty incredible track record.
That can be summed up in 2 words. It's Auburn.
Yeah.
Right. You just happen to be in the same state as the greatest coach in modern college football history, who's your biggest rival, right? But to have 3 wins versus this coach, to have your team in the top 10 perennially, I mean, look, they lost 3 games this year, and they're the 11th ranked team in the country because they play such a tough schedule.
Yeah.
So
been to a national title game.
Right.
Should have won it.
We just got to get Coach Malzahn some love.
Do you think if they had won that title against Florida State, things would be different in the ensuing years as far as the perception?
It's amazing what a national championship will do for you. Look at Larry Coker.
Yeah, good point.
Where is he? Didn't he just get fired from like UT San Antonio or something?
Wow.
That was somebody else, but he did get fired there.
Right. He was there. That's where he ended up there. I mean, but to have this success, I mean, the last minute of the game, Paul, I mean, he outcoached Saban with a minute to go by tricking and putting the punter and having all
on
of
the
that.
field was pretty
that alone, that was a bad look for the GOAT.
Yeah, but that alone would, as an Auburn, if I were a huge Auburn fan, I'd sit there and say, you know what? I think you said it.
You know what I heard after the game? That was just not fair.
Right. No, but that shouldn't be
it's not fair.
The narrative. The narrative should be that he outcoached him.
The officials should have let us rearrange our personnel because we're Alabama.
Right. Yeah. And maybe they should be letting you know what the play calls are in advance also to give you a better chance to defend against them, right? I mean, wouldn't that only be fair?
I think from now on, Alabama's going to refuse to go to Auburn. That's just the
game's back.
We will not play them there anymore.
Right. Legion Field, it's time for your makeover for sure.
Alabama 0-7 versus ranked Auburn teams.
Why do you have to make such a big deal about that?
In Auburn.
Great stats.
Okay, welcome back to the program. There's nobody I'd rather talk to after an Iron Bowl than our next guest, the legendary Hall of Fame coach, Pat Dye. Coach, first of all, good afternoon. Hope all is well. I know the last couple of weeks have been up and down for everybody, but especially you health-wise, but I hope you're feeling better.
Well, I got an issue that I have to deal with, and that's what we're doing. It's just getting old ain't for sissies, Paul.
Well, before we get into the game, I do want to ask you about someone that served under you and really is the embodiment of Auburn football. That's Pat Dye, who passed away. Pat Sullivan, who passed away.
Well, Pat was an icon at Auburn. You put him in the same category with a Bo Jackson, a Charles Barkley, as far as an athlete and somebody that he touched the whole Auburn family, and he's just such he had the it factor. He had the it factor on the football field when he was playing, and he was just one of those guys that's got a magical personality, and everybody loved him, and he loved everybody. I mean, it was and that all bundled into a man that was highly, highly competitive, and just a great guy. And I know you've already said it, but my prayers and love goes to Gene and the family and all of his friends and the Auburn family itself, because we're all grieving about it. Well, and so just one of those things that we faced. If you live long enough, you have to go through some of these times, and we in one of them. Right. And it comes right on the heels of probably one of the greatest wins in Auburn football history.
Yeah, and I want to. Yeah, I mean, I want to ask you about that, and certainly I appreciate what you said about Coach Sullivan. I mean, you've been part of epic Iron Bowls. I didn't think I'd ever see anything quite like some of the ones that you took place in, but it seems like every couple of years we get one that tops the other one. But Coach, have you ever seen anything like this one.
No. And Paul, it was 10 league changes. And you know, the most points we had given up in a ball game this year, I think, was in the 20s. And we give up 45 points Saturday. And, you know, the same thing probably true about Alabama, because we score 48 and you don't score. I think that's the most points that's ever been scored against Nick.
Yes, that is correct.
Alabama. And it was a crazy game, but a great football game. And, you know, the ebb and flow of the game from one side to the other. And Alabama's got a good football team. And, you know, it was just as a classic, and one that people will remember forever. You know, and that it changes the dynamics at Alabama, but it also changes the dynamics at Auburn, because we want to go to a good bowl game, and we deserve to go to a good bowl game. All you have to do is look at our resume, and from a standpoint, now I know we lost 3 games, but that being said, we also beat some great football teams along the way, and it's an exciting football team, and one that deserves to go to, like I said, to a major bowl, and of course Alabama's sitting there with a record that's actually better than ours, but we just got through beating them. Here's an interesting thing: the cumulative record at Auburn, we're number 2 nationally, winning 86 and losing 46. And Alabama is 98. They've won 66 and lost 66. Now, which one did you rather have as a bowl team? Huh?
That's true. No, it's a good point.
I think Alabama's beaten one team with a winning
No,
record.
listen, I don't think there's any question. I'd take Auburn because they're enthusiastic, and you know what it's like going to a bowl game after losing that game?
Yeah, I do, and I hadn't thought about that, Paul. And but the Coach Malzahn is. I hope that he'll get some of the people that you talked about earlier in your show off his back. Now I know that he's got some of the same people that you talked about that he's got 100% support from them. And really and truly, if you look at the whole body of work, now it's been some funky things that have gone on, but right now he's got our program in as good a shape as it could possibly be in, and if we can recruit around the quarterback we got a national championship caliber quarterback, and we're in good shape going forward as far as our football program is concerned. And Coach Malzahn is one running the show, and he deserves a lot more credit. But I don't, he's not the kind of guy that's going to go out and have a false face on and try to impress people and meet people and so on and so forth. He is what he is from a standpoint of personality, and he's not going to cater to all of the people that want to be catered to. And one of the main things that a head football coach at a major college has got to do is pick and choose who his friends are, because them same friends will, they'll turn sour in a heartbeat when things go south. And I just hope that our fan base and the powers that be that you talked about, that we can all fall in behind Coach Malzahn. And I say him because, the same people love Auburn, and they love just the coaches, but just the least little thing raises the hairs, and it's his fault, and it's so. It's a time for us to come together, and it couldn't be a better time than right now.
Coach, let me ask you about something else, because, I feel like you're the best person in the world to answer this question. You came to Auburn at a time when Coach Bryant was at the top of the world, and we all know what happened in recruiting with a number of players, Ben, Tamburello, Bo, and then the next year you beat him, and a couple of weeks later, he had retired, and really his reign was over. I'm asking about Nick Saban, and I want you to just kind of give us some insight into what happens to a coach like him. He is. We all know who he is. We all know how great he is, but there just seem to be signs that maybe that window is starting to come down a little bit.
Well, I do know this: the older you get, the harder it gets for you to travel and compete, with the younger guys. Now, I mean, that's just a fact. And I think Coach Bryant saw that with me coming to Auburn. I was 41 years old, and I was working day and night, and he was wanting to go to Indian Hills and have a toddy or two and play poker for a couple of hours, and then go home and come back to the office the next day. But he had his program on automatic. It was running itself, and it was working. So and I guess every one of them are different. But we're at a great place at Auburn right now, in my opinion. If we just don't screw it up, and we do have a history of screwing it up. We just need to come together as a total family, not just portions and parts and factions, and this. The whole school needs to get behind Coach Malzahn and the athletics. And we went to the thing in baseball last year. We went to the Final Four in basketball, and there's a lot of great things that are happening in Auburn right now, and it's a great place to be.
Well, listen, you know it better than
that thing.
Well, why does Auburn? I don't mean this to come out the wrong way, but why does Auburn always seem like they screw it up?
Well, I tell you why. And it's if you had two children, you would know how to raise them better than anybody. But you might have a brother or a sister or your mama or your daddy or your granddaddy or a close friend that might think he knows how to raise your children better than you do. In other words, it's not a mean, vicious thing. It's a love thing, because they love Auburn so much, they think they know what's best for Auburn, and they got people in place down there to make decisions. And if they stumble just a itty little bit, it hurts because they care, not because they don't care. It hurts because they do care, and. It's I've watched it with myself, with Tommy, with Coach Malzahn, and that may be true in some other places, but they've had. Listen,
we saw a coach win a national championship, and he was gone 2 years later.
Yeah. Well, he really and truly, in my opinion, now he took the bullet for a couple of assistant coaches that he wouldn't fire or didn't fire. And that's what got Gene. I mean, and there's things that were going on that could not go on in an athletic department. And so, yeah, I mean, and you maybe have to talk to him about it sometime.
Oh, I have. I mean, listen, I'm just pointing out that if you don't know what's going on there, it looks strange from a distance, but that's always been the way Auburn runs.
Yeah. Well, we all got problems that we have to deal with on a daily basis, and right now we've got in my opinion, we're on the right track.
Coach, as someone who was part of ending the career of, at the time, the greatest coach in college football history, who was your boss and friend for 9 years at Alabama, do you see signs that Auburn now with this win could? I mean, they've already hung in there with Alabama, but how dramatic of a moment could this be with a coach who's 68 on the other side, and Auburn with a young coach who has a really good contract and a lot of momentum, and as you said, a great quarterback?
Well, you know, I base it on recruiting, and I can't really vouch because I'm closer to the defensive staff than I am the offensive staff at Auburn. But I do know for a fact that we are recruiting the kind of kids on defense that you can win national championships with, and hopefully we can get into that same recruiting mode on the offensive side of the football. You know, our best receiver got hurt on the first play of the ball game Saturday, and or maybe not the best, but the most dangerous, and so it's. You know, we're going to have to make over our offensive line next year. We lose 4 out of 5 starters across there, but the offensive line coach thinks that the ones that are going to replace them are better athletes than the ones that are graduating and leaving, more talent. So I don't know. It's just if we can, and just like I said, if we can surround Bo Nix with the right kind of people, and he hadn't thrown an interception since the LSU game. He's thrown 167 passes without an interception, and he's the real thing.
Well, Coach, listen, come back soon. We always enjoy talking to you. I hope your health continues, and thanks again for making time today.
Paul, I look at you all the time, and you're still the best there is out there. You know what? I would have never thought that when I was calling you up and chewing your ass out on the radio, and back in the 80s.
Yep, yeah. I got a few of those from you.
Hey, listen, Wanda was here this weekend.
Oh my goodness!
She spent the weekend with me. She spent the weekend with me, and she said, "Yeah." So I remember taking the phone out of your hand and talking to Mr. Finebaum.
Well, I don't mean to go old school, but I have to because we have to go to a break. But the worst chewing I ever got wasn't from you, but it was from your wife Sue.
Well, you got. I think you got Sue and Wanda, my child, mixed up, but it doesn't make any difference.
Well, they did me well. Let me phrase this differently. They took turns, and I didn't have much left when it was all over.
Hey, look, you have stood the test of time, and that's the greatest test of all. And I have not seen anybody on television that is beloved as you are across the nation, or my nation, where we live down here. But I hear you getting calls from California and Oregon and Texas and all over the dang United States. And you keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Coach.
And enjoy every damn minute of it.
I will. And
so we don't know when the next one,
you're
might
right.
be your last one.
Thank you for that, Coach. I will talk to you very soon. We need to catch up off the air as much as we did on the air. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Coach. Great. What an amazing guy. We will take a break after that. We're coming back. The witness protection program all year because his team hasn't played a legitimate game. But Dabo Swinney surfaced back on your televisions Saturday afternoon after dispatching South Carolina.
Obviously, if we lose this game, they're going to kick us out. They don't want us in there anyway. We'd drop to 20. Georgia loses to this very same team, and the very next day, it's how do we keep Georgia in it? We win to the team that beat South Carolina, and how do we get Clemson out? It's the dadgummest thing. So it's big because, they can't vote us out. We gotta go under. We gotta go 30-0. We ain't got no choice. But we don't play nobody.
Thank you, Dabo. Guys.
I just had an epiphany, Paul, that wasn't Dabo Swinney. What we did was we took Bobby Bowden from 1999 and just dadgum. We started the year number 1. We beat all our teams.
Right.
Dadgum, they want to move us down to 3. I mean, that is from the ACC playbook for the last 30 years.
He has become Bobby Bowden.
Yeah. Because nothing changed with Florida State in the 90s in the ACC. It's not like, all of a sudden they were this powerhouse.
No.
And now he's just taken.
If it plays to his fan base, and obviously those writers and broadcasters in the room were yucking it up like
they were loving
Saturday night at the Grand Ole Opry.
Right.
Yeah, it was quite a show.
Play the fiddle. There's Minnie Pearl.
It went all over social media, and it was being pushed a lot.
They don't even want us in the playoffs. We're the little old Clemson.
Dadgum. I mean, we played everybody.
We just got through beating Charlotte and Mercer and South Columbia High School and a bunch of good bowl teams like North Carolina going 6-6.
Mac Brown back. Miami.
I tell you what, dadgum, Mac Brown, he's a heck of a coach.
Yeah.
Dadgum, Paul. We got a conference championship we got to get through.
We got to play. Who we got in the championship? Anybody know?
Virginia.
One of the Virginias. Yeah.
Tech,
different team to win the Coastal in 7 years.
What tomato can we? I mean, what good team do we have to beat in the? Where's that game? Charlotte.
I mean, dadgum.
We got to drive hour and 53 minutes to go to the championship game. Welcome back. Let's go to Chris in Tennessee. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Paul. I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you.
I'm an Ole Miss man from birth and a mid-60s graduate, so
yes, sir.
I have a lot of history there. I'm very disturbed with how Ole Miss handled this Matt Luke situation.
Apparently, Matt Luke was visiting a recruit on Sunday when he learned he had been fired.
That's what I understand.
That's class.
You're in a home talking to a recruit, and you get a phone call.
You know what that sounds like to me, Chris? That sounds like a group of alums decided to hijack the Ole Miss head coaching position and told the president, fire him and do it now.
Well, they've got an AD that hadn't been there but
well,
2
the AD
weeks.
just came out and gave him a vote of confidence.
Yes, and then does not fire the man face to face.
No, it was disgusting. It was absolutely disgraceful. And listen, it's their decision whether to fire Matt Luke or not, but if you're going to fire someone, don't tweet it out. Don't text him. Call him in. Thank him for his services and fire him.